So back to the channel guys in yet another chess video, and I'm back again with another beautiful and engrossing game of mine in which I registered a convincing victory, although I also made some mistakes, but we will see that later on in the game. So let's begin this video. So in this game I was playing with the black pieces, and opponent starts off with knight to f3. I replied with d5, opponent replies with d4, and I replied with knight to c6. And although this is a book move, I didn't necessarily liked this move. After the game, when I analyzed this, I didn't necessarily liked this move because this simply blocks my c pawn, and so opponent strikes back in the center, taking advantage of my move knight to c6 by playing the move c4. So I replied with e6. We have an exchange in the center of the board, and now opponent plays knight to c3, gaining a tempo over my queen, and I moved my queen to d7. Opponent strikes in the center with e4, and I played bishop to b4, simply developing my bishop and pinning the knight as well. Opponent plays the move bishop to d3, and I moved my queen to e7, and we now opponent castles short, and I developed my bishop to d7. Now we have knight to b5 on the board, and I castled queen side, and I didn't had the worry about the a7 pawn, because if you look at in this position, it's defended by my c6 knight. So opponent played a4, and I made a prime mistake by playing king to b8, because this allows counter play shot for my opponent. Moves like bishop to f4 followed by knight takes on c7 if I won't be careful. But still, I had my opponent played bishop to f4 in this game, then I really needed to be passive with the moves like rook to c8 and bishop to a5. But opponent instead plays the move a5, and this is a blunder. First of all, it's a complete blunder of a pawn, and second, this allows the move a6, which will kick away the knight, which is what happened in the game, as I played a6, which is a great move, as it was the only best move in the position. So the knight went back to c3, and I continued my development with knight to f6. Opponent pushed e5, and now I got my knight in the center with knight to d5. Opponent played knight to e4, which was a mistake, as now I can simply grab the a5 pawn. But I countered my opponent's mistake with a mistake of my own, as I played f5 and completely missed the move bishop to g5, which will win my opponent the exchange. But still, opponent missed it, and again replied my mistake with a counter mistake by playing e takes on f6. Now we have g takes on f6, and this opens up the g file for my rooks to attack, and this will be crucial and even decisive, as you will see. So opponent played bishop to d2, and now we both exchanged the bishops, and now I played f5. And the reason this move is a blunder, because first of all, this allows the move knight to c5, and maybe, just maybe, in the future white will get the opportunity to sacrifice one of his pieces, either his knight or bishop, to open up my king. and it loses equalizes the game, and I lost all the advantage because of this move. And but anyways, opponent continued with knight to c5 as expected, and now I quietly played bishop to c8 just defending. And now opponent plays the move rook f to e1, and as you can see my queen and his rook are in the same file, which means he wanted to win the f5 pawn, or maybe wanted to play the move bishop to c4. But still I continued with rook d to g8, and as expected he played bishop takes on f5, and now I am losing my pawn altogether, my e6 pawn. But why bishop takes on f5 was a blunder that lost all the advantage for white. Well, as it turns out, I had this move queen to g7, and this was the only move that maintains the advantage for black, and I found it. So after queen to g7, I was threatening a checkmate, and my opponent's bishop was also hanging. So he played bishop to h3, which by the way was the best move in this position, as it also defends against the checkmate, immediate checkmate threat. But I again found a great move in this position. It was the only one, e5. And now there's tension in the center between the pawns, and the threat that I will simply win my opponent's bishop by playing bishop takes on h3, not necessarily checkmating him but gaining a material advantage. So my opponent in this position played the move king to f1, which was a big blunder, as now I can simply take my opponent's bishop and bust open his king side, which is what happened in the game, as I played bishop to takes on h3, and after g takes on h3 I simply played knight to f4, and it's complete. This position is completely winning for me. White is completely busted because I am threatening a checkmate on g2, and the only way white can save this checkmate is to actually sacrifice his queen by playing queen takes on f4, because my knight on f4 is actually a monster. And even after all that, opponent made the prime and the last blunder of the game with d takes on e5 and blundered a mate in one just like this. Queen to g2 checkmate. I checkmated him. And in this position, let's look at some other lines. What had happened had he played the move rook takes on e5, and as it turns out, this was a blunder as well. This would have been a blunder as well had he played it, because this also allows the move queen to g2 check. So the main idea of white, had my opponent played this move, would have been to vacate the e1 square for his king. But still, even after the move king to e1, which was forced, here comes the savage queen sacrifice with queen to g1 check, and knight takes on g1 is completely forced, and now this game would have been ended like this: rook takes on g1 mate. The king would have been mated with just a single rook and a single knight fall, and that would have been a different ending altogether had my opponent played rook takes on e5 on the 24th move. But still, I won in this game. So thanks for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next video.